making this video because I think I can speak for myself and quite a few others when I say that I believe enough is enough and it is time to call Gabby out on her lies. So, just so if you're wondering why I keep looking down at my phone, it's not focusing. I've written a shit ton of notes solely for the purpose of this video. Like all her red flags and stuff, and stating pretty much the obvious that so many Gabby stans can't seem to believe, but we're gonna get right into it. So for red flag number 1, I have Gabby Queerbaiting. Now this, you've probably seen her being called out on this by the number of Gabby exposing pages like Criminal Gabriella and Gabby Gone Wild, and maybe Free Widow. I'm not sure if they posted about this, but basically she's like dressing up in like rainbow stuff. She jokes around with her best friend Mackenzie, calling her wifey and stuff, and she's tweeted like, oh wait, you're like girls now, with a throwing up emoji and stuff like that. So she's been homophobic in the past, and as far as I'm aware, she's never apologized for it. So as you can imagine, me being in the LGBTQ plus community, I find that highly offensive. And so I DM her, I'm like, hey, I don't know if you realize, but you are queerbaiting, and I would be absolutely 100% happy to educate you. And one day she comes back saying that she's not queerbaiting and that in fact she is pansexual. And now it was like a whole massive paragraph, and that was basically like the highlight of it, right? And so I read this message a few times, and not once did I believe her. First of all, I am a stranger. She doesn't know me. I am calling her out. And so if she's never come out in public before, why come out to a stranger? Based on experience, when I came out in 2020 during Pride Month, that was the year and month people were using, like, it is a trend to come out, and I noticed most people were using bisexual or pansexual to come out is because they were the most, like, considered, like, easiest things to come out. And so it just comes across as unbelievable to me that she actually is. But if she really is, then I don't know, good for her, I guess. Red flag number 2. This is still the topic of me and the DMs between Gabby. In one of the DMs she sent me, she said, I'm constantly invalidated in just about every aspect of my life when it comes to people on the internet who make assumptions to the smallest bit they know about me or lies on the internet. So Gabby's like always complaining about how much of her life is on the internet, but she shares almost every single thing about it. If you're gonna share about your life on social media and you know that's what you're gonna do, don't go and complain about it. On her story on the 26th of January, she posted a question box saying, ask me anything, and someone asked, do you regret sharing so much of your life on social media? And she said yes and no, which proves my point about the fact that no one's assuming about her life, because we already have facts, because she shares so much of her life already, yet complains about it. Like, please make it make sense. Okay, red flag number 3, Jack and Lavender, which also ties into red flag number 11 right at the end. So recently Gabby said that Lavender is suffering from both physical and emotional trauma, and she was blatantly implying abuse and that the abuse was coming from Jack. Now think about this. Lavender is almost 3 and she has a pretty good understanding of what is good and bad. All children are blunt as heck. I've got a young niece and a nephew, and if something is ugly, if they don't like something, if they don't want something, they say it. They say, no, I don't want this. That looks ugly. They will say it. Children are the most blunt people ever. So if Jack really was doing that, Lavender wouldn't want to go see him. And why is Gabby letting Lavender see Jack if that is the case? It makes no sense. And if he was, why didn't she mention it in her live? Like, knowing Gabby, she wouldn't have failed to mention it if he was doing that. Red flag number 4. Now, this could be taken as a red flag or not, but this is just how I see it, and I know a few of my friends and other people see it. But red flag number 4 is Cody. Gabby has known Cody for at least a year, but she's only dated him for no longer than half a year. And now she's engaged and is getting married in less than a month's time now. This, to me, and to a lot of others, moving way too fast. Both of my brothers dated their wives, now wives, for years, stayed engaged for years, and I can kind of tell from first-hand experience, because I was there for both of them, that it is really hard to plan a wedding in, like, I think they planned it in, like, while they were engaged, they were planning it, so it was like 2 or 3 years worth of planning, and you're gonna pour all of that into 1 month. Good luck. And I've heard this from other people that Gabby is marrying someone old enough, who looks old enough to be her dad, which, I mean, that doesn't really matter. It's not like he actually is old enough, but there is a significant age gap. And he goes against everything she believes in. She loves animals, and he illegally hunts animals. She hates guns, and he loves guns. Gabby is basically replacing Jack way too fast with Cody in order to push Jack out of the picture and have Cody as Lavender's only father. Because once Gabby gets married, she can completely get full custody of Lav, which is why so many people think she's trying to rush it. Whether Gabby will actually do that or not, I can't say, because I don't know. She's never like talked about it or anything, but you know, if she does, it would be very cruel to rip Lavender away from Jack, who already knows who he is and what he looks like. If Gabby is that bad of a mother to do that, she will find that Lavender will be asking about Jack most of her life. Like, where did he go, or I want to see him, or does he not love me anymore? And that can cause emotional damage for life. And it's the worst way to grow up, and as me, I'm almost an adult, and I never knew my birth dad. I do have a father figure. I grew up with a father figure, and that's good. But because I've never known who my real dad was, as I get older, I find myself asking these questions like, who is he? Like, does he know I exist? Like, you know, it causes emotional damage, and if Gabby does that to Lavender, she's gonna have that for life. Okay. Next red flag, I lost count. I think we're about 5 or 6. So the next one is clout chasing / attention seeking. So everyone I know who's called out Gabby in her DMs, posts, stories, you name it, she has been like Speedy Gonzalez and blocked them all of them, except me. I've like replied to stories calling her out. I've DM'd her, like calling her out. My stories probably get sent to her about talking about how like BS her whole story is. And she hasn't blocked me at all, which I find very surprising considering she's blocked everyone else I know who's done the exact same thing. And I know she buys her followers. She always does these brand deals. Whenever she loses some, she goes and buys more. In about 2021, she was gaining less than 100 per day, and then all of a sudden she jumped up like 1,000, 2,000, and I'm like, so she's trying to like. She also says she's trying to focus on the positive and like try to heal and cut the negativity out. But if that were the case, she can easily press the block button and delete my messages. She doesn't have to respond, and yet she feeds into the attention that I'm giving her by calling her out, which I don't care if I'm giving her attention, I'm calling her out, but she is feeding into it and proves that she wants attention. She's going to lie her way through it to do so. Alright, red flag. The next red flag is she's tearing Jack down to look 100% like the victim. Gabby knows about Jack's lawsuit and that he obviously cannot say a single word, and that's why he hasn't said anything. And she also knows the lawsuit and like David and stuff makes it difficult for Jack to go see Lavender. But not only is it the lawsuit that's making it difficult, it is Gabby. She moved across an ocean and then complains that Jack never sees Lavender anymore. Like, Jack hasn't been paid in the last 18 months, and you expect him to pay for a flight to go to Hawaii. Not to mention you moved in the middle of a pandemic and when natives have been kicked out of their homes, and two amazing, I don't know if they are Why Don't We fans, but two amazing girls were gonna help educate you, and you always made an excuse. And also I'd like to point out the fact that in Jack's words, Lavender saved him. Like, why would Jack abuse a person who has saved him? Makes no sense. And also from Jack's words, my ex gives me anxiety. Gabby, you give Jack anxiety. I wonder why. I'm going to take the Sienna May and Jack Wright situation as an example. So Sienna May spoke out first, claiming that she never did anything and she had nothing to be sorry for. And so many people were quick to believe her, unfortunately including me, because men can't be abused, men can't be assaulted, right? And so, but as soon as Jack Wright came out with his statement, everyone believed him, because men do experience abuse and assault. And Gabby is tossing aside and disregarding Jack's mental and physical abuse given to him by David and the music industry to lift herself up and push him further down. And she doesn't care that she hurts him in the process. She said that Jack should have stood up to David for her, and apparently Daniel did, which, okay, good on him. Jack is younger than Daniel. And when Jack was dating Gabby, he was in his late teens, and Daniel just in his early 20s, maybe 19. All five of them were scared of David, so I can see how hard and scary it would have been for Jack to step and obviously take consequences after that. Take the Zach ordering a salad video, which I'm all sure all of you have heard of David yelling at Zach, and in the background you can just hear Jack, Jonah, and I think Daniel all stepping in, like, hold on, no. And then it's unclear because we can't see anything, but David hits something or someone, he throws something at someone. So you can imagine every time they've tried to stand up for one of their bandmates, friends, family members, girlfriends, whoever, just by hearing that audio, you can hear how angry David gets and how severe the consequences would have been. Because that was David's way of doing it. Next one is her giving birth YouTube video. Now, I know a lot of you are dismissing any proof coming from that because she was still under management, but I want to talk about the part where she was saying that Kristen, who is Jack's mum, called Jack to say, don't sign the birth certificate. First of all, how could Kristen have called Jack if she was there the entire time? She may full well have said that to Jack, but how would she have called them if she was right there? Like, she was there with Lisa and Rachel. Like, how? Like, Gabby, you're just making it too obvious that you're lying at this point. Next one is Hawaiian Laws. So there's quite a few that she's broken, but I want to discuss the main one that bugs me, is the fact that in Hawaii, no matter your age, you're not allowed to run naked on the beach. You're not allowed to bathe. You're not allowed to be on the beach without any clothes on. And if you've seen I think it's on Gabby Gone Wild, and possibly Criminal Gabriella too, there is Gabby taking a selfie with her friends, and it seems perfectly normal until you zoom in and you see Lavender running meters away, like ages away, with no clothes on the beach. Gabby isn't even watching. And people want to know how she's putting her in danger. She's breaking laws. She's using her for brand deals. Who uses their own child for brand deals? Like, majority of Gabby's brand deals, about 80% of her brand deals all have lavender in them. Like, why? Why would you use a 2, almost 3-year-old for your brand deals? You can do it yourself. You can do it with a friend. But don't use your child. Even if it is for a child product. Everyone knows you have a child. But do not use her for your brand deals that you then go and buy followers for because you're not getting enough attention for them. So you use your child even more. So, red flag, the next one is travel. So Gabby said that Jack came and saw her and Lavender while they were in Australia. She was in Noosa, which is 2 hours from Brisbane, and she went to Sydney while the boys were back in America. And yes, Jack could have easily gone in between shows, but if you look at the dates, there is a day between each date, which is allocated to fly time, sound check, rehearsal, and including sleep. So they'd be in like Sydney. The next day they wouldn't perform, but they would take the day to fly to Melbourne. Next day they take that day to fly to Brisbane, and the next day after that they took that time to fly to New Zealand. So where in that busy schedule of time could Jack see Lavender? And if you look at the time frame between of that time of year, which is around November, look at the time frame and the places located on Gabby's and both Why Not We's and maybe even Jack's posts. They were never in the same place at the same time. And you'll know that Jack always posts either a story, a post, or anything when he's with Lavender, and we got none of that. So I think it's safe to say that Gabby's lying about that one because Jack never saw Lavender. And the last one ties into one of the ones I talked about at the beginning of the video, is that Gabby lying about abuse. Now, abuse can be physical, emotional, mental. It comes in many forms and like you don't always see it. But if Jack was abusing Lavender, why would Gabby in her right mind let Lavender go and see Jack? Like, she wouldn't. Like, why half the time, like, Lavender's with Jack right now. Why on earth would she be laughing around him, smiling around him, happy? Like, she can't even see the cameras on her half the time. Why would she be doing that if Jack was abusing you? You can't manipulate a child. Children are too honest. You can't say, oh, smile in this video. Like, you need to smile in this video. Like, they're going to be blunt and honest. Like, if you were listening to Why Not We Space that they have on Twitter for their new music video, Lavender was there and Jack said, can you say hi? And she said no. Like, if Jack was really abusing Lavender and Gabby was like, okay, time for your visit, Lavender would say no. Like, children are brutally honest. Like, she would say no. So, clearly, if Lavender still wants to be around Jack, and Gabby is still letting Jack be with Lavender, it just doesn't add up. None of this adds up. Of course, I'm not going to disregard the fact that, yes, Jack may have taken off his condom when they were having sex or whatever, but I'm disregarding the fact that all these points I have just made that Gabby is lying about, because there is like stone cold proof of her lying about all these things. Like, lying about abuse is very serious. Like if he was, Lavender wouldn't want to be anywhere near him, yet she does, and you just can't manipulate a child. Like, it makes no sense. Anyways, I know I'm going to get hate for this from all the Gabby stands, but it's okay, because when you come forward, I know who to block. But it just had to be said, because no one was going to say it otherwise, and yeah, it just needed to be said, because she's not going to stop.